Hello, everybody, here, there, and everywhere. I'm Stephanie Solomon, and you have tuned into the Winning Ways. And thank you for stopping by. I'm excited. I'm always excited about the day that the Lord has made, and I hope you are too. Well, tonight we're going to acknowledge. And I say we because I have a guest. Yes, I love when I'm talking to a real person. So, we are going to be sharing in conversation about, excuse me, domestic violence awareness. It is the Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And some may say Domestic Abuse Month as well. But nonetheless, we're going to get right into it. But I do want to say for those of you who are jumping on, especially on the YouTube side, don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe. I'm trying to build up my community on that platform. Okay. When you come in, comment, like, be engaged because I found out that that's what YouTube recognizes. They recognize engagement. All right. And if you're wondering about this channel, well, Winning Ways has been around since 2010. 2010. And I basically was a podcaster just on the audio side of things. And so now I'm over here on YouTube as an author, as a life coach, having topics that are related from my writings and bringing on authors. And tonight I am excited. Hey, I'm excited to have a comeback, a return guest. And her name is Teresa Mack, author. Yes, yes, yes. Hey, Teresa, what's going on?
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited. One thing about Teresa, she's a talker, and I can be a talker too. We choose when we want to. We're kind of funny like that, right? Teresa says she's an introvert. I don't believe it. But anyway, I'm an ambivert. Some moments I'm out there, and in some moments I'm like, okay, you can do all the talking. I'll just listen, you know. But we tend to chat a lot about a lot of things. And when I had Teresa on before, what was it like 2015, Teresa?
Yeah, about then.
About
Yep.
that 2015 on the audio side of things. Again, I'm seeing people jump in. Please engage. Let us know who you are. Let us know who you are. Say hi to our guests. And don't forget to subscribe if you're on that YouTube side. Yeah, so Teresa was on before and she talked about her book and her journey. Well, Teresa uh, wrote a book that was inspired by her journey in the domestic violence realm. And you want to tell the audience a little bit about that before we delve into some more conversations about that, Teresa.
Certainly, certainly. My first book was about opening up, trying to identify who I am, because instead of looking at the abuse piece, I needed to know, why is this happening to me? So it was a journey for me to acknowledge who I was and why these things were happening to me. My second book made me realize that no matter what I was going through, God was always there with me. And my third book, Surviving Her, that just actually came out maybe 2 years ago. Um, that is where it all started, because I look at abuse, or the domestic violence piece, I look at that as a symptom. It's a symptom, but where did it all start? And I feel like it started when I was very young. And that is in my book called Surviving Her. It's actually an anthology with nine authors that come together and talk about their stories of survival. So that was my latest project.
I like that, what you said too, Teresa. You mentioned how a symptom,
Mhm.
you know, let's just deal with the whole domestic violence term, what it is and what it's not. The fact that we have the word violence in there
Right.
is plain and simple. Someone is intentionally applying pain,
Yes.
physical or mental.
Emotional.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, um, I just learned about a year or so ago that pain can be financial or economic.
Hmm. Yeah.
Never thought about it until it was introduced to me, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's sometimes when you really hear what things are, you know, it's kind of like me being a forgiveness coach. When I'm coaching my clients, particularly the ones who are really struggling with forgiveness, I generally start with what it's not,
Hmm.
so that they understand what the true definition of it is. And that seemed to work for me when I became more familiar with forms of domestic violence
Yes.
and abuse. I was really surprised. I mean, because oftentimes we hear of it uh, as a pain inflicted on a significant other
Hmm.
or spouse.
Yeah.
But domestic mean what goes on in a
In
close
the
relationship,
Yes.
and close relationships could be parent child, elderly,
Absolutely.
children
Yeah.
against their parents. Um, the one that stood out for me was they call it the forgotten. What is it? The
Mm.
forgotten abuse. I think that's
Forgotten
called.
abuse. Yeah.
Yeah, between siblings,
Yeah. That's
and
where.
that really got me. That it is the number one underreported. I thought like rape, incest, whatever, but that
Right.
can happen with siblings as well. But it's the most it goes underreported, more so than parent child abuse, and I was
I
really
think because people put it under the guise of sibling rivalry. I think I
yeah,
think that they just say, "Oh, siblings, they fight. You know, they're going to fight." But some of these sibling uh, fights are pretty brutal. They are pretty brutal. A friend of mine stated that his brother hit him in the head with a baseball bat.
Jesus.
That's to me, that is not civil sibling rivalry. To me, that he was trying to take him out. That's what I looked at it as. But he said, "Oh no, I know my brother loves me," and I'm like, I would have second thoughts on love.
That's dysfunctional. That's
Yes.
just hi, Letitia.
Hey,
Shout out to
T.
you, Letitia Johnson. Welcome, welcome. If you're on the YouTube side, Letitia, do us a favor and subscribe. We would love that. Thanks for joining us tonight. You know what? I've heard the same thing. I've seen it. I've seen it up
Mhm.
close and personal. And you're right. Many people minimize it
Yeah.
as sibling rivalry, little spats.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not a spat.
That's
There,
right.
it wasn't a spat between Cain and Abel.
Ah,
That was
that part.
thank you. That ended in death.
That's right. That's
You
right.
know, it wasn't a spat between Joseph and his brothers.
No,
Ain't real.
absolutely.
It
Left
wasn't a
them for
spat
dead.
between it wasn't a spat between Tamar and not Absalom. Well, was Abnon the one who
I,
wrote to her brother?
oh, you're testing me.
Oh my God. Okay,
Testing me.
I don't want to be wrong, but and then it wasn't a spat when her brother, who was by the same mother, Absalom, went to kill
Right.
him
Yeah. Yeah.
for raping the sister. That's
Mm.
not a spat.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
know,
Absolutely.
I think that if it I like what you said too, you know, we want to put it in these categories because I think because we here again, what goes on in the house
Stays in the house.
stays in the house. And no matter how sick and how warped and how dysfunctional it is, we are going to live with this, not correct it, and not
Right.
have other people talk about it or deal with it. And definitely don't talk about it.
And I
And so
think
it
that
continues.
parents kind of step away from it because they feel like, oh, it's not that serious. But
Yeah.
it is, if your sibling walks past you and just hits you for no reason, and then you two just start wrestling, and next thing you know, you're fighting, and then it's that is not to me, that's just not a spat. And you're
Mm.
absolutely right. We have to look at it for what it is. Call a thing a thing.
Yeah.
We need to look at it for what it is. And it's definitely not a spat.
And
It's
it's not healthy.
absolutely
It's not
toxic.
healthy. It's toxic. And wait a minute, you talked about picking up a bat. You know, what about knives? I mean, going to blows, knives, and what have you. And the other thing is, it's not always physical. I
Yeah.
did a little research on. I just started digging because I
Mhm.
said, this looks too familiar here. So I started doing some digging, and it's even not. It's the way you. It's the harsh bullying. It's the tone of teasing. It's the
Mhm.
tearing down of a sibling.
Yeah.
The talking down,
Yeah.
the so that's it's really harsh, it's emotional. So yeah, it's so on different levels, but domestic abuse is real,
Right.
it's underreported, and what I'm hoping tonight is that someone is listening and understands that they can make it to the other side of it. They are not who and what their sibling, their parent, their child, their relative, their significant other, their spouse, their former spouse, or whatever said that they are, to
Right.
tear them down and to reduce them to nothingness.
Right.
Terry, how can we, since we can talk about what domestic abuse is all day and we can
Right.
come up with all these stories, but let's talk about the victory. This show is called Winning Ways for a reason.
Yes. Yes.
And so let's talk about victories. I know you work with young girls,
Mhm.
and hello, give us a chat, let us know who you are. Thank you. And if you're on the YouTube side, don't forget to subscribe. If you work with young girls and with their parents, I've worked with tons of young girls and children over the years as a retired educator and their parents, and I've seen signs of abuse. I've reported re,
Mm.
abuses. Let's talk about the victory. What thing or things could you say to someone, not just a woman, but God, that's another thing about abuse. Men are abused.
That's right.
We don't like to talk about that because
Yeah.
then it's like, oh my God, he's not a man.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And
Definitely.
there are
Definitely.
women who get away with all kind of stuff, going up hitting the guy, knowing that he's likely not going to hit her back because it won't
Right.
look
I
right.
don't know, Stephanie. Some of these new guys, they making them different now. They're hitting them. They're making them a little different now. A lot
Listen,
of
no,
these.
you won't.
That's
My mama
right.
told me if whoever hit me, I'm gonna hit him back.
That's right. That's
Didn't say if
right.
it's a girl, don't. But what could you say to someone? What would you say to someone who is struggling out there because the abuse is in the family? What would you say to them to win them over, to get them over, to see themselves as more than a conqueror, have them see themselves as God sees them? What would you say to them?
Okay. What I would say is, first of all, I can only speak about my journey. When I was going through, my thing was I never knew how wonderful and beautiful I am. I looked at myself and I said, I'm pointing out all of the things that were wrong with me. And
Mm,
so I stopped. I literally stopped and I started reading my word and I started journaling. And when I journaled all my feelings, getting those out of me and out of my head and putting them on paper, it kind of gave me a sense of relief. So I started journaling. And then the more I journaled and the more I read, the more I felt like I can do this. I can do this. I'm better than this. I'm worth it. I'm worthy. You know, um, and that was the beginning steps of me moving toward my freedom state.
mm,
And it actually helped me write because I did not know that I was a poet. And the
mm,
more I started reading and the more I started journaling, the more the words started coming together. And I started writing poetry as a sense of freedom and getting it out. And the more I wrote, like I said, the more I wrote, the better I felt. And I realized that it didn't just start with my marriage. It started way, way, way back in my childhood where
wow.
I accepted the things that were coming to me, the criticisms, oh, I'm the darkest one in the family. It started with all of that, me looking at myself saying, oh, I'm dark skinned, so I'm ugly. And I had to deal with that. And, it was friends that were saying this, that were coming over the house, and they were saying this. And I'm like, this little chocolate girl sitting in a corner, like, nobody wanted to play with me. And that's when it started. And it
Yeah.
just progressed as I got older. And then I started accepting the things that were given to me, not concerned about my feelings, more or less trying to make everyone else feel comfortable so that they wouldn't criticize me or talk about me. So that was my way of feeling comfortable in any situation. And then something happened. I started reading and writing, and something said, girl, you know what? You are worth it. And when people look at me and say, oh, you're this and because I never really realized how many people would say you're dark and you're ugly. You're pretty for a dark-skinned girl.
Oh God, I had a friend of
Amazing.
mine, someone said
Like,
that to her, and she was so offended by that.
yes. And someone told me recently, they said, oh, you're pretty. And I was like, you act like you didn't know. I mean, I knew,
Wow.
so it's
They
like,
could
I'm
have
not
stayed in
being
their head. Oh my gosh.
right. And it's not like I'm being vain or anything. It's just that I have to tell myself that, because if I give them a little in,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to take a mile. They're just going to say, oh yeah, this, and they're just going to keep piling it up. So this is how I protect myself. I
Yeah.
have to know who I am and whose I am. I have to
Mm.
know that God made me beautiful. If you don't think I'm beautiful, God knows I'm beautiful, and I'm going with what he says. I don't care what you say.
I'm gonna stop you right here. You said several things that I want to jump back to. You that whole brokenness piece, and the
Mhm,
whole the self-awareness,
mhm,
and I want to talk about when did when did that happen? I'm going to take a brief break. I see that people have been jumping on. When you jump on, folks, I appreciate it. Just let us know who you are. Say hello to myself and my guests, and subscribe. Subscribe. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Baltimore author Stephanie Solomon has released her third book, Aging with Grace. Messages from Aging with Grace targets girls and women of all ages. Learn Christ's perspective on sex, parenting, and more. Aging with Grace is available on Nook, Kindle, and anywhere books are sold.
Yes. You got the authors on tonight, where books are sold. Hi, Linnell. How you doing? Thanks for joining us. She's real cool. Well, and now if you would do us a favor, okay, you on the Facebook side, I see. Would you do us a favor and share this if you don't mind? Letitia, if you're still with us, would you put this on share as well? Thank you. You're on the YouTube side. Thank you. Well, you talked about brokenness.
mhm,
When people were making those comments to you as a young girl, thanks, Linnell. When people were making those comments to you about your complexion, your
mhm.
darkness, because it's really a slight to even say something like you're cute, you're pretty to be dark skinned. That's
Right.
really not a compliment. It really isn't. And
Yeah,
I really believe people know what they're doing when they make statements like
absolutely.
is to cut you and to shrink you, reduce you. But when you were young, how when did you realize that it was wrong? Even though you may not have known how to articulate it,
Mhm,
what was going on in the little girl Terry when
mhm,
people were making those abusive comments to you? Family members, by the way.
mhm.
Um, and what was in your head that you could not articulate?
I never put it on them. I
Mm,
never thought it was them. I just thought, why am I made like this? Why do
mm,
I look like this? Everybody else looks this way and I look like this. Why? And I always put it on myself. So that was a struggle, because I had to go on through life with that. And any bad thing that happened to me in my childhood, I just put it on. It's because I'm looking like this.
wow.
So that is, I never put it on them. Now that I'm older and I look back, they didn't know. They were only doing what they were taught.
Mm.
So I have forgiven them for doing that, but and I never look at it as a loss. I never look at it as my whole childhood I was running around thinking that I was this ugly girl. No, I never look at that as a loss. I always look at that as a lesson because they're only doing what they are taught.
Yeah.
I can't burden myself with, oh, somebody said this to me and I'm going to just be angry with them for the rest of my life. No, I don't have time for that. Life is too short. So
Mhm.
I have to just forgive them and keep it moving and
Yeah.
just allow certain people in my space who celebrate me.
Oh, I love that. That whole part about celebration. When did you get to a place where you're an adult? When you got to the place of celebration and
Mhm.
moving in circles and spaces where people celebrate and respect you. About how old were you?
Um, it was actually in 2006. Wasn't long ago. 2006, right after my divorce. That's when I started looking at myself differently, and I realized that the things that happened, some of the things that happened in my life, I caused them. So I had to just do a whole I had to look at myself differently.
Mhm.
And 2006 is when it all happened, and when I started really looking at myself as the person who I am, the things that I like, the things that I don't like, because I was always living to please everybody else.
Mhm.
So when I got divorced, I was like, you know what? This is my life. I need to do some of the things that I like to do. I didn't even know what I like to do and what I did not like to do
Mm.
because I was always doing stuff for everyone else.
So in that journey, and would I be wrong to say or correct to say that self-discovery was really a part of it?
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So how would you go about encouraging some person right now who or some person who's going to come across this maybe on demand, replay, whatever, scroll upon this, I believe they will. And what can we say to them to help them feel good, great about themselves, whether they know the Lord or not?
Yeah. My thought is to just fall in love with yourself. Fall in love with yourself. And I know that that may sound hard for some, but what I did was I looked in the mirror and I did not leave the mirror until I said 25 good things about myself. And I just kept looking and I was like, oh, my neck is long. Oh, I got these big old eyes and everything. And I was like, you know what? I am just learn to love yourself
Mhm.
because you can't allow everybody is going to treat you the same way you treat yourself.
Yeah, and
Nobody's going to
yeah,
love
and
no
people can pick that energy up too.
yeah. And so I had to learn to love myself. And, I was not always invited to the parties or anything. And I'm okay. I had to learn to be okay with that because some of the people that were going to these events, I said that they're not doing me any good. Those are the ones that are saying these things about me. Do I really want to be in that space? So I had to change where I go, change what I say, just change everything about me. So I just encourage people just to learn to love yourself. Start off, if you look in the mirror and you can't find 25 good things about yourself, start off with 10. Then
Mhm.
bring it up. And it's not being vain, it's just learning to love yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
that was a
think
major part because I every time I looked in the mirror, I saw this little ugly dark girl. So I had to go in and look at it with different eyes.
yeah, oh, I like that. I taught a session at an empowerment a workshop a week or so ago,
Mhm.
and that was one of the things I said, don't be afraid to reimagine.
Mhm.
And reimagine, but I believe as a child of God that when I invite the Holy Spirit in
Yeah.
with that reimagining and to look again, because some people don't want to look in the mirror, Terry. They
Yeah.
don't like what they see. They hate walking. I've heard stories of people
Yeah.
saying how they hate it when they would go by a
I did.
department store window and you see a
I did.
reflection of yourself, that they hated that. There are people who don't want to even look at themselves because they
Yeah.
point out all these things. Um, I challenge anyone who's
Mhm.
been abused by a sibling, a parent, a child, a relative, a spouse, or what have you, a significant other, to ask the Lord how he sees you.
Yes.
Because the Bible says that when he made us, he said it was good.
It was good.
It was good. And as I shared also at the workshop, when God made us, he made us for good works.
That's right.
Not just
Mhm.
work, but good works.
Good works.
And he says that we are his workmanship, made for good works. We are his handiwork. You
Yes.
know, when he thinks and talks of us, it's a good thing. And
Mhm.
when he does things for us, he says, no good thing will he withhold from us.
Amen.
It's
Amen.
about good things, even the
Good
plans
things.
that he has for us and for hope and a future. He not to harm us. It's about good. I think that there has to be a resetting, a reframing, a reimagining of how we see each other. Would you agree
Yeah.
that that's a journey and that journey will vary from person to person?
Yes, I agree.
Yes. I
And
think.
I want to share this, Stephanie.
Mhm.
When you're talking about allowing the Holy Spirit to come in and you want to see yourself as God sees you. I remember excuse me, I remember one morning I woke up and God just gave me the phrase, free yourself, be yourself, and love yourself.
Wow.
And I had no idea what that meant. I was like, "Oh, come on, God. You know how much I love sleep. What are we talking about here?"
Yeah.
And so he broke it down for me. I had to free myself from all of that stinking thinking, all of that, those
Mm.
things that made me feel less than. And then I could be who he created me to be. And then I can look in the mirror and love
Yeah.
myself. So he gave me that. And I always have to tell myself that over and over, free yourself, be yourself, and love yourself because
So,
he is love and we are created in his image. So
yeah.
we have to be love. We have to love. So, and love
Mhm.
is an action. It is not just four words, four letters that's just dancing around. That's an action word. So, as I show love to others, I need to show love to myself.
Absolutely. And some people think that that's not a Christian thing to do. But
Mhm.
before, the second greatest commandment is that we love others as we love ourselves. So we
Yeah,
can't love people the way they ought to be loved unless we know how to love
absolutely.
us. You know,
Absolutely.
um, I like something you talked about I heard mind shift.
Mhm.
That's such a journey, though, I would think, especially, I'm looking at you. You are truly an adult woman, and you're talking about your brokenness being identified as young as a child. That's a long time. And
Yes.
so I just want to encourage people out there who find this relatable that no matter how long it's been,
Yeah.
you may be a child looking at this, wondering if there's a way out, if this
Mhm.
will ever stop. There is a stoppage. This
That's
is not the life that God wants. You're not going out like this. This is not
that's
how
right.
he wants you to go out. I'm seeing people jump on hellos. Let us know who you are. Give us a hello. And yes, please subscribe if you're on that YouTube side. But I like what you said. It's definitely a mind shift. Some people want the change but don't know how to go about it,
Right.
especially when they're children, because when you're a child, you have to survive.
Yeah.
So running away is not an option for every child.
Right.
You know, and they work out ways how to survive in that environment. coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
Did you have coping mechanisms that eventually you had to change as an adult? They maybe worked for you as a child how to cope. Because I heard you say earlier, um, how you took it all on.
Yeah.
You took everything on and you forgave everybody, which I do encourage that, but that doesn't make people exempt from what they did. But you talked about how you took everything on and you blamed yourself, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Was that what you, was that your way of coping? And how, and did you find yourself as an adult you continuing usage of those childhood coping mechanisms that
Mm-hmm.
weren't working for you as an adult, or were they working for you as an adult? Share that.
When I was younger, I daydreamed a lot because I had this mind. I've always had a creative mind. So
Yeah.
I would just daydream a lot and dream about this
Escapism.
wonderful,
Escapism. Oh my
right, to
God.
dream about this
Yeah.
wonderful life, these wonderful
Yeah.
people that are around me. And well, when I got older, I couldn't just sit somewhere and just daydream. I needed to do some things because I was an adult, and and adulting is real. So
Yeah.
that is how that was my coping mechanism. And I think when I got older, I started writing again, putting those things on paper. It made a difference because it got it out of my head. But yeah, when I was younger, I just daydreamed and I played with dolls up until I was, oh my gosh, I was so old. My family really thought something was wrong with me because those were my friends. So I played with dolls
Yeah.
for so long.
Mhm.
And I realized that was comforting to me. And from that, I started doing hair. And then I started being a cosmetologist. And so all of those things just kind of came out of me coping, so to speak. And so, yeah, that was it. Daydream. Every now and then I just start thinking like certain things, not, my daydreaming about my friends, but I do just kind of, it's easier for me to drift off a little. So I have to be really cognizant
Mhm.
of pretty much every moment. Every
I can
moment.
relate. Yeah, I can relate. Escapism as a child was my thing, and
Yeah.
it was six children, and and then it was two adults, my stepfather and my mom. But I could be in a room full of people, and I was in my own world.
Yep.
You know, I was in my own world. I just want to encourage someone out there as we begin to bring this to a close, and I see people still jumping on. Um, those who are jumping on, hello. Let us know who you are. Thank you for stopping by, and please don't forget to subscribe as you are on the YouTube side. Yeah, I just want to encourage someone, adult or child, that abuse is not of the Lord. It's
Mhm.
not. And no matter what someone is telling you and
Right.
what you're telling yourself to survive the moment until you get a certain age and you're thinking, then I'm out of here or whatever, we tend to take the remnants of that with us and we make decisions off of those abuses, even though we may put ourselves in different spaces and places. Um, don't don't be afraid to do the work,
Mhm.
whatever the work is. Sometimes you'll find the work continues. You'll think that you're past certain things, and you find out,
Mhm.
oh my God,
Trigger.
yeah, you're
A
right.
trigger.
Something
Yeah.
something triggered. Lionel says that's the truth. Something triggers an event.
And
Or
Steph, we really don't know all the things that would trigger us.
you're right. Yeah,
We really don't.
you're right.
I've been in situations where I see something and it's
Mhm.
like it brings something back, but because I learned to deal with it, I
Yeah.
can suppress it or just kind of
But are
overlook.
you really dealing with it?
Not really, not
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
But it doesn't bother me the way it used to.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes I'm like, oh, that triggered me. I
Yeah.
didn't even realize that was a trigger,
A
but it
smell, a look, a
yeah,
word.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a trigger. So you
absolutely.
said something with the pre-show.
Yeah, the show before the show. Yeah.
Yes. You said something. You asked me, do I think about it? How often do I think about the situation, the domestic violence that I went through? And I I told you that I don't really think about it a whole lot. I do my like I said, my last book, Surviving Her. Um, I have a chapter in that book, and that just let me know where it began, where it all
Mm.
began. But I just don't think about it. And then you said, I'm just kind of giving you all a little bit of what we talked about
Don't worry
before.
about it. It was
Yeah.
good. Mhm. And it still
and
is.
and I was saying that I go back to, I remember I said I journaled a lot. So I go back and I read my journals just
Mm.
to see how far I've come. And it was one time I was reading my journal, and one page just had a date at the top.
Mm.
And the page was wrinkled. And I was like, what in the world is this? Those were from tears. So
Wow.
that's all I had was a date and tears.
Mm.
And so that was, and I could not remember. I was looking at that page and I was like, what did I go through that day? Whatever it was that I went through that day, that's all I could do was cry. That's
Mm.
all I could do was cry. And it got better throughout the day, but it was a couple of pages in there with a date and just tears. And some of the pages that I read, I just said, who is that girl? Who is she? I didn't
Wow.
even know who she is, because this Teresa, she wouldn't tolerate that. And
Girl.
I'm just trying to say I was trying to figure out who was that girl,
Wow.
because she was so, I could read it. She was so broken. The
Mm.
the penmanship was all off, and it's certain things I was writing on the sides and the margins of the book because it was so much pain, and I can't believe this happened to me. Why is this like this? And I was so angry and frustrated, and again, putting it all on everyone else, worrying about their feelings and not really caring about mine. But when I put it in on paper, it looked
Mm.
like I shouldn't be here. That's all I'm saying. I should not be sitting here. And I'm just grateful to God that He allowed me to go through that. And I don't look like what I've been through. And I'm here to tell my story. And my thing is, my story, it wasn't only for me. It was for me to tell someone else that you can get to the end as well. There
Yeah.
is an end to this abuse. You don't have to, it doesn't end in death. It doesn't always end in death. Unfortunately, sometimes it does, but there is a light at the end of that tunnel. So just trust God. Trust
Yeah.
God. And that's all I can say. And I know that there may be some people there that may not know God,
Mhm.
but trust him.
Yeah,
Get to know him.
what we don't want is to see a violent outcome that ends in
Yeah.
death.
Yes.
I know there was a major funeral of a soror. I didn't know her personally, um, but I know of someone who did, and her funeral was this weekend. A young woman, murdered by her fiance. Um, it's just it's prevalent more than we know.
Yeah.
More than we know. I just want to encourage you, whoever you may be, male or female, child or adult,
Mhm.
report and find a way, pray for a way to be removed. Do not allow things like these are things that I've heard, but I've invested too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've invested too much into the house. I've invested, I'm too old now. I can't start over again. This gets back to the self-love.
Yeah.
You know, how much do you love you?
Yeah.
You know, because when you're a child, you're kind of like, some children had the wherewithal to run and leave. You know, I
Yeah.
never forget once I made a decision, oh, you're not gonna beat me today.
Yeah.
And I was typically a very obedient child, but that day I was like, you're not.
Yeah.
And we just looked at each other, told, because I was like, I didn't say, I just wasn't having it. I caught the belt in the air,
Yeah.
dropped it on the floor. Then it happened again, and I just walked out the house. and neighbor saw me and let me in the house. And, I was determined I'm not going to get beat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether you feel I deserve it or not, I didn't know how to articulate it, but I knew I wasn't going to get beat. Had no plan where to go, whatever, but I knew I wasn't going to endure
Yeah.
that.
It has to
And
be another way. It had to be another way.
yeah, and I think we have to be careful. And we live in a time now, as crazy as these times are, though, we do have more access to mental health and emotional health resources, whether it be in schools, they'd be nurses, counselors, teachers. They're supposed to be trained in some way
Yeah.
to at least lead us to proper resources, where no child should have to go back home to environments where they're going to be abused for telling
Absolutely.
or killed for
Yeah.
telling, or no adult should be fearful of his life or her life, because if they don't continue in this relationship with this person or keep things secret, that
Yeah.
their life will end. No one should live like that. Everyone's life is valuable. I can relate to that whole piece. I remember getting counseling, and I remember saying to the counselor, it was such, you had these aha moments. I
Right.
remember saying to the counselor, who was I? As I was sharing
Mm.
with the person these events that had happened, that
Mm.
I knew all these years happened. I just didn't share them and talk about them. One, I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel
Mm.
safe with people who are nice people, intentionally nice, great people, but everybody doesn't have the capacity for the baggage we bring. But I felt in a safe space. And after I was sharing all this with her, there's like pages of stuff. I'm like, who was I?
Yeah.
How with that song, Who's That Girl? And I'm like, who was I?
Right.
Who was I? Not that I'm perfect and all together now.
Totally unrecognizable, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. But yet I functioned. And
Yeah.
it reminded me of what they like, people who are functioning alcoholics.
Yeah.
They work on their jobs. As I knew someone who was a functioning nurse, functioning alcoholic, was a nurse, had no clue, but this person was an alcoholic and yet did a job.
Yeah.
And I said, well, how much different was that with me?
Yeah.
I went to work every day. I worked with children who I could easily recognize what they were going through because it was relatable. I could feel it. I could identify, and when I would share, we would get, if the Lord gave us those, I would call them teachable moments, where I
Mhm.
could share my life with the kids and they would become connected with me because of what I shared. Even with me sharing those stories, there were still parts of me that weren't delivered.
I think that we are put in those places to help people. Not, a lot of times we see something and we're like, yeah, I know what she's going through. I know what he's going through. And we may bypass it. But I think that God allows us into certain spaces so that we can help people and let them see that there is a better way.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly believe that. Um, and we shouldn't ignore that. I used to ignore it. I would see people going through domestic abuse, and I would see it, and I wouldn't say anything, and I would be troubled, so troubled,
Mm.
and until I said something. And it took me a while, because my thing is, that's none of my business.
Mm.
None of my business. I'm just,
Wow.
I'm gonna just leave that alone. That's none of my business. But it is my business.
Mm.
It is my business. And especially if it's
Yeah.
a child, if a child comes to you and they open up to you and tell you, it just became your business.
Yeah, I could be, as teachers, we could be fired if it came out at some point that, let's say the abuse came out and it was really horrific, and let's say the child died or something,
Mm.
and we knew about it, we could lose our license. And I remember the first time I reported an abuse case, I struggled with that.
Yeah.
I really did. And I should not have had to struggle. That's the thing about it. When I look back at it, I should not have had to struggle
Mm.
with it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like you said, the whole thing, my business, and then I'm
Right.
thinking about outcomes, the consequences of this. And most children who are abused don't want you to tell them. They don't want They don't want the abuse, but they don't want their parents to get in trouble either.
Right. And you know
Isn't
why?
that crazy?
And I've realized this. This is one thing that I do realize is when they are in that abusive situation, we can see what they're going through.
Mhm.
That's all they know.
Yeah.
And if we take them out of that environment and put them in another environment, which we think is the best thing for them, they
Mm.
may not thrive in that environment.
That's so true.
They
That's
may not
so true.
thrive in that environment.
Yeah. And the thing too is my hope is that people who've been abused, because some people weren't all abused as children.
Yeah.
They had healthy, this is another thing that really blows my mind that I've encountered adults who had nobody has a perfect life, but a really healthy childhood,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that looks like, very healthy,
Right.
but become an adult and find themselves, especially women,
Mm-hmm.
and during those college years, and
Yeah.
find themselves in these abusive relationships.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like they have no common sense.
Yeah.
They don't know, and they will not tell. And that's where I say a lot of abuse at college. A
Yeah.
lot of abuse. These girls were not abused at home or whatever, but they stay in these relationships and get really tortured and humiliated.
Yeah. And I think that, and this is my philosophy. I don't know where it's written anywhere. This is just me. Everybody thinks everybody's just like them. So
Mm.
kind people think that everybody's kind. They think everybody's going to treat them the same way they treat, like a thief. A thief
Yeah.
thinks that everybody's going to steal. So everybody thinks everybody's just like them. So a
Mm.
lot of young girls who go off to college, they had the good life. So they see this person and they're seeing the good in that person.
Yeah. Mm.
And they overlook all of the bad things that they're going. They could have had a wonderful life.
Red flags, red flags.
Yeah, right. And this person is treating them horrible, and they're like, oh, but he's a good person. He's a nice person, because of course, in abusive relationships, the man is always going to come back. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it.
Love bombing.
Exactly. And so it's like they say, okay, I'll give him another chance. I was there. I literally was there.
Mm.
And thinking, oh, he is going to be okay. He said he was sorry,
Yeah. And
and
not really knowing what a red flag looks like. And not
right.
trusting our instincts.
Yeah.
We may not know the name of what's happening, but something inside of us says this
Don't
is not
vibe right.
right.
It doesn't vibe.
Yeah, this is not right. The way he
Yeah.
talks to me or she talks to me, or the way that they handle me, I don't
Mhm.
like that energy that comes with their words.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
have no name for it, but it
Yeah.
was a red flag. If we look back at relationships that we were in, even friendships,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I've had friendships with females that I'm like, I don't want to be her friend no more. I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
I know people change, but
I'm
it's
good. I'm good.
good over here. This lane is perfect for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, the energy that people have with their words, I don't think we think a lot about that.
Right.
Again, we think abusive is always hitting someone. We hit people with our words too.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Yeah.
True.
This has been good.
It has been.
Good. This has been good. Where can people connect with you, Terry? Do you have a website? Your social media?
My social media IG is Terry Teremack 64. Facebook is Terry Mack. And if they want to reach out to me, is my email is Teresa E. Mack, TeresaEMack @gmail.com. My website is under reconstruction. Been under reconstruction for a while, but we're going to get that. We're going to get that started. Devin, we're going to get that started.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, do you have any projects going on? Anything, places where we could hear you speak, maybe publicly, or are you available to speak publicly?
Yes, I am. I am having an event on the November 18th at the Church of the Living God. I think it's 600 Reedburg Avenue.
Oh, that's South Baltimore.
Yeah. And so I will be speaking there on the 18th of November. And I don't have any writing projects coming up, although after this conversation, I think that I'll probably start writing something new because it's been refreshing talking about this. Again, I don't talk about it a lot. I may write something down and that's it. But I think that it's time for me to start writing about this again because it's needed. It's needed.
Yeah, absolutely. We can continue on and on. I one of the things that I try to do with moving to YouTube is shifting with my time. But when I have good talkers on, it can go a little lengthy, and it's okay. It really
Yeah.
is, you know. And this is a subject that needs to be talked about as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I want to have you back again, and maybe we'll be talking about something else. But I like how, you know, you're not afraid and ashamed to use your life lessons and experiences to help others. You build upon them, and you have been empowered by them, and you use your experiences to empower others. So keep up the good work, my sister. Keep talking about it. I like that you're not shrinking because of what was said and done. I like that you have lived, you are living, did not die, and you are declaring the works of the Lord.
Praise God.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, listeners, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, all of you who are on now, I hope that all of you have subscribed. Let us know who you are before we log off. We're about to log off. And this is definitely on demand. You'll be able to listen to it again. I see some of you have jumped on near the end, so you'll be able to listen to this as a replay. But let us know who you are before we log off here. Tara, you have any last words before we log off?
Just love, love, love yourself. Give yourself a hug. Blow yourself a kiss when you walk past that mirror. Just love on yourself because you have to give. If you love you, you can easily love others.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, like we hear that saying for domestic terrorism or whatever, they say if you hear something, see something, say something. I think
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing with domestic abuse,
Right,
folks.
right.
I know some people say, well, hi Jessica.
Hey, Jess.
Yeah. Some people say, oh, it's not my business, but you know, you can do some things anonymously.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
people don't have to know that it's you. If you really feel as though you see someone and they look like they are living under some type of threat. Thank you, said Latanya. Thank you,
Latanya.
Latanya.
Thank you for joining,
Yeah.
Latanya.
Yes, 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 yes.
Shout
So,
out to G2W, Latanya Savage.
oh yeah. Okay, wait a minute. Latanya, were we working together for the women's? Is that the same
Yes.
Latanya?
Yep.
It's the same Latanya. Okay, and I still don't remember her face because I think she had the
mask
screen
on.
blacked out a lot on the Zoom.
Oh.
But thank you, Latanya. We got to say hey in person again. But yeah, so thanks, Terry, for joining.
Thank you.
Folks,
Thank you
it's
for
going to
having
be up on YouTube, so feel free to share and all of those wonderful things. Well, this has been a great, great
Yeah.
conversation. Again, don't be afraid to have it. Thanks, Terry, for joining me tonight and allowing me to talk to a real person.
Yes. It was quiet. It was quiet in my world tonight. So this is good for me too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, take care, Terry. Have a wonderful week. And everybody out there, you have a great week as
Bye,
well.
everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.